Good evening. It's so good to be here. This is one of the best Republican clubs in the whole state. Do you know that? And it is such a pleasure to come and speak here because you guys are so motivated and together. I am just impressed by your unity. So anyway, thank you for the hard work that you did in this last election to help deliver for Wake County and for the state of North Carolina. If you're not familiar with North Carolina Values Coalition, it's been around now for 14 years. And our vision is to create a culture in North Carolina where human life is valued, marriage and families flourish, and religious liberty thrives. And we seek to follow Jesus Christ. We're not afraid to say we're followers of Jesus. That's why we're doing this work. It's what motivates us, and so our goal is to build and equip coalitions that will then advance and proclaim life, liberty, and family, and we do that in elections, public policies, and law. The scope of our work, we just said, is public policy, elections, law, and advocacy, and so we work hard to be effective in all of those arenas throughout the state. We're not just a local group here in Raleigh. We are a statewide group. We work on these values. These, we believe, are transformational values for the culture. So we try to focus on life, on families, which includes parental rights, on religious liberty, and we just added election integrity. None of those things would be possible if we can't make sure that we win an election when we actually win. So we're going to put some effort this session behind election integrity. These are some of the issues that we've worked on through the years. You'll probably see things on there that you've been to or that were part of something you worked on, but we've done a lot in the last few years. So tonight I wanted to present you with some problems that we have in North Carolina that we're going to try to fix this year with legislative solutions. And I'm so glad that Keisha talked about that supermajority in the legislature, because that is the key to being able to do anything to solve problems at the state level. And this year, we're one vote short in the House. You all know this, right? You know we're one vote short. But we do have some Democrats that occasionally will cross over and vote with Republicans, especially on social issues like I work on. So we need your prayers, we need your help, and when we have bills before the legislature, we're going to put out calls to action on our website and through our social media, and we're going to ask you to come to the legislature. Now, you guys in Wake County are much more effective than those people from Monroe, because they're in Monroe and you're in Wake County. So when I put out a call to action, I really need you to come. This means I need you to show up at the legislature and we'll provide the materials. Normally we have a legislative day of action. And so we'll let you know when that happens, and we'll ask you to come and talk to legislators about some of these issues that I'm going to present to you tonight. So the first issue is, you may have heard about this in other states. We have not seen it happen here yet, but parents who refuse to affirm the gender identity of their children are suffering overreach and government discrimination. And particularly, they're losing custody. This couple on the screen that you see is an Indiana couple who lost their 16-year-old son, who identified as a girl, because they refused to affirm his gender ideology. And the court found in Indiana that it was abuse, and so they removed the son from the home. This should not happen. We should not have government removing children from homes because the parents are trying to teach the child what is right from wrong, good from evil. And but it's also happening in the adoption arena, where some states have, like California, have said in order to be an adoptive parent or an adoption agency, you have to be willing to sign a statement that you would affirm a child's gender change. In North Carolina, we do have this problem in foster parenting because the state has issued some guidance on becoming a foster parent that requires you to affirm gender ideology in order to be licensed as a foster parent. So we need to fix that. We need to protect parents. We need to protect their right to custody, to adoption, to foster care. Next is protecting women from gender ideology. Did anyone see President Trump's, one of his very first executive orders on day one? It was beautiful. I cried, I wept when I read it because everything I've worked on for the last 10 years is in that executive order. It's called Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. But you know what? We need to restore biological truth to the state government as well, because these federal executive orders do not cover the state, they cover the federal government. But in the order, he defines sex, woman, man, male, and female based on biological sex. What a novel concept. Did you ever think we'd have to pass laws or have executive orders to define sex, what a woman is, what a man is? Well, we need to do the same thing in North Carolina. One of the other initiatives is protecting women from gender ideology. This is another part of his executive order that says each agency and all federal employees shall enforce laws governing sex-based rights, protections, opportunities, and accommodations to protect men and women as biologically distinct sexes. And then further down in the executive order, he says federal funds shall not be used to promote gender ideology. We need to do this in North Carolina. Anyone remember there was an attempt a few years ago? It was a feeble attempt because it didn't work, but we need to protect girls and women in certain spaces to make sure they're safe, they have privacy. And this is following the Trump agenda. He's already stated what his agenda is on this issue because it's in the first executive order on day one. Protecting detransitioners. Remember we passed the bill 2 years ago to prohibit medical transitioning for minors. In other words, we wanted to prohibit doctors from prescribing hormone therapy or surgeries that would change a child's sex. And the problem is that we have some detransitioners in our country who now cannot go back and sue their doctors for malpractice because of the statute of limitations. This young woman, Prisha Mosley, came to testify on the bill that we passed, and she is now suing her doctors in North Carolina. But part of her claim was dismissed. The other part was allowed to go forward because she can't meet the statute of limitations on medical malpractice. So we just need to give these folks a longer period of time when they wake up from the delusion they're under to be able to go back and sue doctors. This is not going to really end until we're able to sue doctors, because once they feel the financial hit, it's no longer profitable, then they'll stop doing these gender transitions. Have you seen there's a lot of science coming out right now about gender transitioning, that it's really experimentation because there are no long-term studies that show the efficacy of gender transitioning. In other words, there isn't any scientific proof that it works. There are other studies that show that people who transition are 40% more likely to commit suicide after the transition than before. So we need to stop this medical experimentation, and we need to protect our children and also adults. Another initiative is to strengthen the Parents' Bill of Rights. How many of you helped get that passed 2 years ago? I know a lot of you in this room did. And it's a great bill. It's a good start. But as we have applied it, we've seen a few holes that we need to go back and fix. One is that we need to make parental rights a fundamental right. This is a legal concept that has to do with the standard of review. We also need prior written parental consent, not just notification. The law right now says that parents have to be notified when a child changes names or pronouns. We want parents to consent. We also need some criteria to prohibit vulgar and obscene material in books in schools, and then we need to allow parents to sue the school if they don't follow the Parents' Bill of Rights. Right now they have no remedy. Another problem we have is medical consent, and this is for minor children. We have an old law that allows children to consent to their own diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of some really high-risk behaviors: pregnancy, STDs, AIDS, drugs, alcohol, and emotional disturbance, which is not defined. So, under this statute and HIPAA combined, we have medical systems, health systems across the state that have denied parents the access to their own children's medical records. We need to fix this. We need to give parents the right to see their children's medical records and the right to consent. We also have a huge problem in this country on abortion pills. And, we passed a law 2 years ago, a pro-life law, after Roe was overturned, to help stop abortion pills from flowing into our state through the mail. The FDA, when they approved abortion pills, they approved them only up to 7 weeks of pregnancy. So when you don't have a doctor doing an ultrasound to see the gestational age of the unborn child, a woman could take these pills up to any week of gestation. And we did find out there was a young girl in Asheville who delivered a baby in the bathtub and had taken the abortion pills. The baby was 28 weeks old. It was alive. Praise the Lord, the baby lived. But we should never have girls taking pills at 28 weeks of pregnancy. And what some states have done, like New York and California, they've passed shield laws to protect doctors and pharmacists from getting prosecuted for mailing pills into states like North Carolina. And so they're basically breaking our laws. They're shipping pills here illegally in the mail. They're doing telehealth abortions, which is also illegal, and we need to stop it. They're doing it in flagrant violation of our state laws. We need a heartbeat bill. We tried 2 years ago. We didn't have the votes in the legislature to get a heartbeat bill, but we need to keep trying. We don't want to stop trying, because this is about life and death. It's about the life of unborn babies. Did you know that 92% of all the babies aborted in North Carolina are aborted before 12 weeks? 92%. So think about how effective that 12-week limit on abortion really is. It's not very effective. I'm sorry my voice is going out, so if it sounds funny, I apologize. Another problem we have is we passed a law 2 years ago allowing exceptions for fetal anomaly, and some abortionists are treating this like if you can't go play basketball on Saturday night, the child's going to get aborted. We need to eliminate this exception because it is so ripe for abuse, and so we want to eliminate that. We also have an exception for rape. We need to go back and put a requirement in that exception that any woman who wants to have an abortion because she was raped after the limit has to prove that she was raped because she reported it to law enforcement. Now, we have another problem where we want to protect consent for women. In our abortion laws, we're required to give women informed consent before they can have an abortion, explaining all the risks and complications of abortions. But the abortion clinics are going around this, and they're putting all these women, they're herding them into a room, 30 at a time, and giving them the informed consent by just any kind of healthcare worker, not a doctor. That needs to be fixed. And finally, we want to pass a safe surrender law. We have a safe surrender law. We want to add to that a baby box provision where a woman could surrender her baby to a box anonymously and not be liable. And this will help save more babies, because there are some women in the world who are so desperate and feel they can't care for a baby, they will abandon the baby. And so we want to add a baby box to the list of places a woman can surrender her baby. Now, these are big goals. These are going to be hard, but we have a big God, and we are up for the fight. And we believe this is doable because a lot of this is in President Trump's agenda. This is part of his agenda, part of his executive orders. We're also, as I said, going to work on election integrity. And we do have an expert on our staff who is a member of the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. And she's a very sharp attorney, so she's offered her services to help with that. But I want you to know you can always count on us if you have an issue or a problem. We are looking for people to come and testify at the legislature. So if you have any weird situations that crop up in your life with regard to any of these issues, please give us a call, because we could use your testimony. And so I hope that you'll sign up for our communications. You can get to the link through the QR code on your screen, and you can get our emails every Friday. We have a Friday 5, but we also put out action alerts, right, Jan? Yeah, so any questions? I'll open myself up here. Yes?
Tami, over the last couple of months I've seen Planned Parenthood attacking pro-life centers, saying the United States isn't happy. They get $600 million a year from the federal government. Have you heard what the President Trump about that funding?
The question was whether President Trump plans to stop funding Planned Parenthood. And Keisha probably knows more than I do about that, but I do believe there is an effort, a movement for him to do that.
And to stop any federal funding for anything related to abortion across the nation.
Wonderful. So I wanted to introduce Ashley Vaughn, who's with me tonight. She's our new press and political director. She's right back here. And Ashley just wrote an op-ed in the Carolina Journal about pregnancy care centers and why we should put more funding into pregnancy care centers as a state. We spend about $20 million a year in our state budget on pregnancy care centers, and we'd like to increase that so we can save more babies. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a thought about this. I have never understood why all of these abortions occur, because if they could take the baby to term and then put it in an adoption agency, then people wouldn't have to go to Korea to adopt a baby. A lady that fixed my hair, she and her husband went to Korea to adopt their daughter. She is graduated from therapy school. She's an occupational therapist over at Duke. And so I never have understood this, and so I had somebody to get the number of adoptions that had occurred. I think it was in the year of 22, and it wasn't but about 1,500. And look at all the abortions that we're having. I mean, it really bothers me.
It bothers me too. So, why do women choose abortion over adoption? That's a great question. We hopefully, through pregnancy care centers and some of the bills that we're passing at the state level, we can provide enough services to pregnant women where they don't feel like their only option is abortion. And in 2023, we passed $160 million in state funding to help pregnant women. And so we want to put even more into that, because we want women to be cared for when they're pregnant, so they will choose life. It is an amazing thing. We are in a demographic winter. Do you guys know that? I mean, our birth rate is tottering right around the death rate. And no one seems to put that together with the abortion rate. If we did fewer abortions, we would have more babies in this world. So like J.D. Vance said at the March for Life on Friday, I want to see more babies in America. How about you?